Hello, I'm Simon Whistler. You're watching TopTenzNet, and in the video today, the top 10 tips for practical immortality. On the one hand, extending life to the point of practical immortality, longevity to escape velocity, or LEV, is an absurdly bad idea, the epitome of human hubris, fraught with all manner of social, economic, and philosophical problems, many of which we can't possibly even foresee. On the other hand, if aging is a disease like any other, as epigeneticists tend to think, and our number one killer at that, aren't we morally obliged to work on a cure, especially if, as researchers claim, a cure most definitely exists? Aubrey de Grey, one of the most public advocates of life extension research, answers the question of why he wants to cure aging with another. What the hell is wrong with everyone else that stops them from being motivated to cure aging? It's responsible for the overwhelming majority of global suffering. WTF. On the other hand, if you've got a third hand, if you're enjoying life, why not prolong it indefinitely? It's not like we're going to eliminate death entirely and force everyone to live forever. We're just looking at ways to tackle its primary cause. In any case, wherever you stand on life extension, there are certain things you can do right now to improve your odds of living long enough to see it happen. And even if, when that day comes, you opt out of living forever, these top 10 tips for practical immortality can only improve your health in the meantime. For the most part, anyway. Number 10. Take supplements. Although there's very little evidence in favor of supplementing nutrients for longevity, something de Grey himself points out, life extension zealot Ray Kurzweil takes hundreds of pills every day. If you want to stand a chance of living forever, he insists, you must be aggressive with your supplementation. Stephen Coles, another life extension enthusiast, appears to agree, prescribing a daunting nutrient cocktail of vitamins, B, C, E, etc., as well as fish oil and many other supplements. Obviously, the cost of so many pills can rapidly get out of control. It's also no small feat keeping up with the often contradictory research and adjusting your regimen accordingly, while at the same time accounting for differences in size, weight, gender, health, lifestyle, diet, and so on. Given that individual supplements could end up interfering with, duplicating, or even counteracting the effects of others, fine-tuning your intake can become a rather tedious full-time job, and it's probably not worth the hassle. But if you're serious about supplementation, because there is in fact a reason to be, then the best way to get started is to plan out your own personal supplement pyramid. The idea is to start with a reliable foundation of supplements that are recommended for everyone. Multivitamins, CoQ10, essential fatty acids, probiotics, etc., before customizing your intake from there. First, you'll add supplements recommended for your own medical profile, e.g. pomegranate extract for those with a family history of heart disease, and then you'll top off your pyramid with some of the more faddish or experimental wonder supplements or drugs of the day. These might include protein refolding supplements, basis, or metformin. Ned David, co-founder of Unity Biotechnology, is said to look 20 years younger in part because he uses metformin, a diabetes drug that helped even elderly diabetics live longer than a healthy control group. Number 9. Watch what you eat. As with supplements, Aubrey de Grey doesn't think much of fad diets when it comes to extending longevity. Obviously, an unhealthy diet can significantly shorten your lifespan, but slavishly following the Atkins or paleo diet, for instance, might be a waste of your time, unless of course you're overweight. That said, you can't go wrong with a traditionally healthy diet. That means ample fiber, prunes, whole grains, potato skins, etc., fatty acids from oily fish or vegetarian supplements, and plenty of vegetables. Antioxidants are especially useful for slowing the production of free radicals that cause havoc to aging cells. Antioxidant foods include walnuts, pomegranates, ginger, and blackberries. Red wine contains the powerful antioxidant resveratrol, and evidence suggests that drinking it in small quantities could help protect against a variety of age-related disorders, including obesity, type 2 diabetes, cancer, and heart disease. Green tea, with its polyphenols, antioxidants, and antibacterial qualities, is also recommended. Meanwhile, you should limit your consumption of saturated trans fats, as well as meat, dairy, chemical additives, sugars, starches, and heavily processed foods. And, of course, you should never eat brains. Seriously. Some nutritionists believe we should eat the same as blue zone residents. Residents of blue zones have longer lifespans on average, perhaps because of their seafood-rich and otherwise plant-based diets. It should be noted, however, that such a diet is not really feasible for most of us. Our use of chemical pesticides has rendered many foods, especially apples, peppers, peaches, spinach, and strawberries, actually toxic, and our polluted seas have increased methyl mercury levels in fish to potentially dangerous levels. In short, it's probably best to follow de Grey's golden rule for diet and eat whatever doesn't make you feel ill. Number 8. But eat less of it. People in blue zones also tend to eat less, for example, by stopping when they're 80% full as opposed to fully stuffed. According to many life extension fanatics, this kind of calorie restriction may be the key to extending longevity. In fact, we've actually found that animals tend to live longer when they're kept hungry, perhaps because a starving body focuses less on reproduction and more on surviving the famine, investing energy and resources into repairing cells and boosting resilience. One monkey put on a 30% calorie-restricted diet at the age of 16, for example, turned 43 in 2017, the equivalent of 130 in human years, breaking the longevity record for a species. Other studies have demonstrated the same effect in smaller animals such as nematode worms and rats. Calorie restriction is tough though, even if it's only temporary. In one study, participants who restricted their calories on only 5 days per month for just 3 months of the year had a dropout rate of 25%. For some, calorie restriction is just not worth it. It diminishes their quality of life too much, even if it does extend the duration. And it could also be harmful. Many researchers are keen to point out that calorie restriction is really more of a focus for studying aging in the lab than a practical lifestyle recommendation. A drug with the same effect, i.e. of dampening the mTOR signaling pathway to regulate cellular metabolism, would be far preferable. Still, calorie restriction might be a good idea if you're currently overweight. Number 7. Get into shape. DeGray doesn't live much of a temperate lifestyle himself. He drinks as much as he likes, and he doesn't even bother with exercise because he's so well optimized genetically, i.e. he has high glucose tolerance, low insulin, and low triglycerides. Nor does he think it's essential for anyone to lose weight or stop smoking to stand a chance of reaching LEV. You might gain a couple of extra years, but this is nothing compared to the long-term goals of Gray's SENS, Strategies for Engineered Negligible Senescence Research Foundation. Within 30 years, he insists, we should be able to reverse any kind of lifestyle damage anyway. And we've already seen the first stirrings of the gene therapy era with the impossible advent of CRISPR, a revolutionary gene editing system. For many though, especially if another 30 years would be pushing it, adopting a healthy lifestyle now is probably a good idea. For one thing, just like calorie restriction, exercise puts the body under strain and dampens the mTOR signaling pathway. Adopting a healthy lifestyle can also reduce your chance of mortality from any cause by a massive 61%, potentially increasing your lifespan by more than a decade. But you don't need to go crazy. The best and safest exercise might just be walking. Evidence suggests that it's just as effective as vigorous exercise for lowering cholesterol and preventing hypertension, diabetes, and coronary heart disease. It also lowers blood sugar, improves digestion, eases fatigue, boosts mood, and enhances sleep, all of which are vital for getting into shape and staying in shape. Number 6. Stay safe. Even if you live to see age and possibly disease eliminated, you'll still be at a risk of accidental death and murder. There's actually a website which allows you to run a simulation yourself to see how long humans would live in a world without age or disease. This website was built using information from the Insurance Information Institute. In one simulation of 500 practical immortals, for instance, the oldest person to die was 54,258 years old, and the cause of death was a car accident. Other causes of death, including shooting and drowning, limited the average life expectancy to a paltry 8,938 years. Setting aside the question of how car safety and other factors have improved by the 563rd century, around the time that our last survivor crashes his car, these statistics can help us frame the dangers that we face every day. After age and disease, car accidents are the most common cause of death by far. You have a 0.011% chance of dying this way every year. The next most common cause of death, in the US at least, is assault by firearm. You have a 0.0035% chance of that. Obviously, the answer is to invest in self-driving cars or to avoid driving altogether. Tighter gun laws might help too, although armed police apparently pose the real threat here, killing more American civilians every year than mass shooters, terrorists, and gangsters put together. Then there are the freak accidents that none of us see coming. Unfortunately, you can't eliminate risk entirely without severely limiting your quality of life, so you're better off sticking with the essentials, keeping a first aid kit handy and knowing how to use it, as well as learning CPR and the Heimlich maneuver. And make sure those around you know it too, because they're the ones who'll use it on you. Also, make sure you know what to do in a variety of other life-threatening situations. While you wait around for LEV, you should also stay on top of regular medical and dental checkup, including twice-yearly prophylactic cleaning in the latter case, and all essential vaccinations. Number 5. Minimize stress and get plenty of sleep. Importantly, don't freak out about the risks that surround you each day. Avoid all stress in general, including about your age. Frequent bursts of adrenaline can be dangerous, and cortisol can actually corrode bodily tissues. Stress also constricts blood vessels, potentially leading to angina. De-stressing your life doesn't have to be stressful. Some common tips are to avoid routine emergency deadlines, take time out when you need it, and use public transport instead of driving in big cities. Getting good quality sleep is also important, so you should never go to bed on an argument or with unfinished business in mind. Sleeping pills are a bad idea because they interfere with the crucial REM phase of sleep. Take naps if you need to, but try to stick to a regular schedule that allows at least 7 hours of sleep. Incidentally, if you snore, you should get it checked out by a doctor. Snoring is often a symptom of sleep apnea and may indicate that your blood and brain aren't getting enough oxygen when you sleep. Number 4, get out more. Research suggests that getting out into nature can also help to reduce stress levels. It's such a powerful remedy, in fact, that even just looking at pictures has been found to produce similar effects. Indeed, spending more time outdoors is often more effective than pharmaceuticals for treating a range of unhelpful conditions, including depression and dementia. Untreated depression, in particular, can dramatically shorten your life expectancy, and this has little to do with suicide rates. Depressed individuals are at greater risk of heart disease and stroke and tend to have unhealthier lifestyles, being more prone to heavy drinking and smoking. In other words, if you're depressed and you want to live forever, getting undepressed should be your top priority. It's also important to surround yourself with good friends. Studies have consistently shown a correlation between good friendships and better health and well-being, including a lower incidence of disease and depression. According to a 2010 study, loneliness and isolation is as bad for your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, and actually worse than being obese. The right friends can also help to promote healthier behaviors in general. Interestingly, relationships with family members do not appear to be quite as beneficial. Number 3, have sex daily. Less than a third of Americans aged between 18 and 59 have sex more than twice a week. And this isn't anywhere near enough. According to a 1997 study, 45 to 59-year-old men having sex less than once a month were twice as likely to die over a 10-year follow-up period as those having sex the most frequently. The optimum, according to L. Stephen Coles, is to have sex with a willing, sexually healthy partner every day, and this goes for any age group as long as it doesn't risk aggravating existing problems like heart conditions. But there's apparently no requirement for orgasm, it's just the intercourse that's important. It may also be important, particularly if you're male, to avoid being single too long. On average, married men tend to live longer than their unmarried counterparts, and this may have something to do with taking fewer risks as well as benefiting from a wider social circle. Number 2, support causes. When Aubrey de Grey was asked what the best thing anyone can do to extend their life is, his answer was simple: give SRF, Sen's Research Foundation, lots of money. The next best thing? Persuade others to. As far as he's concerned, there's really nothing else to do at this point. Our hopes for practical immortality rest squarely with longevity research. If you want to live forever, it makes sense to give what you can. So why aren't more of us investing? Well, de Grey suggests that it may have something to do with selfishness. Older investors may believe they stand little chance of personally benefiting from the research and refuse to part with their cash. Younger tycoons, though, they tend to be more enthusiastic. But the odds aren't actually that slim, even for the oldest billionaires. At 50 years old, de Grey gives himself a roughly 50-50 chance of reaching LEV, which not only means halting aging, but actually reverting his body to the biological age of 30 and keeping it there indefinitely. More promisingly, he believes that the first person to live to the age of 150 has already been born and that they're already over 60. Couple that with Kurzweil's prediction to reach LEV by 2029, and there's every reason to give money to SENS just to hurry things up and improve your own chances of living long enough to benefit from the breakthroughs. But there are reasons to support causes in the name of longevity. Having something to believe in obviously gives you something to live for. And of course, making the world a better place should be a priority if you're planning to stay in it. You might therefore want to change your political alignment to vote for the most peaceful, science-literate and non-climate change denying politicians. You might also want to campaign for nuclear disarmament, for preserving the oceans, and against Monsanto killing our bees. Ensuring you've actually got a world to live in is a no-brainer if you want to live forever. Again, though, it's important not to stress out over it. Having a purpose is one thing, and improving the world is fantastic, but go with the flow whenever you can, and live and let live for longevity. Number 1, have a backup plan. So, you're taking the right supplements, watching what you eat, and eating less of it. You're in shape, keeping safe, getting plenty of peaceful sleep after nightly sex, and you're spending a lot of your time outdoors with your friends. You're even supporting TopTenz research with some of your not too stressfully hard-earned cash. You're well on your way to reaching LEV and attaining practical immortality. But everyone needs a backup plan. Many life extension enthusiasts see cryonics as the next best thing, opting to have their bodies or heads cryogenically frozen in case they die before reaching LEV. This could also be a safeguard going forward against accidental death, even as a practical immortal. If you die in a car accident, for example, you could simply be frozen until we figure out a way to resurrect you. There's no guarantee we ever will, of course, but it's certainly safer than just rotting in the ground. Some life extensionists also look to the 2045 initiative, which seeks to eliminate the body entirely by uploading human consciousness to a digital format. Even the Dalai Lama is said to support this so-called avatar project, whereby uploaded consciousnesses will be installed into humanoid robots. While this might sound totally far-fetched, many simply think it's inevitable. In fact, as the name of the initiative suggests, they think it's actually inevitable by 2045. So that's about 30 years yet again. All signs do point to this golden number. Live another 30 years, and you stand a fairly good chance of living forever in one form or another. Just so long as there's still a world in which you want to live. So I really hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to this channel for brand new videos every day of the week. Also, I've got another channel. It's called Today I Found Out. And on that channel, we have content very much like this, except we dive into one specific subject in real depth. You can check that out through the icon on the screen now. But if you're looking for something else to watch right now, why not check out another TopTenz video or a Today I Found Out video over there on the right. And as always, thank you for watching.